Coming up on today's edition of Locked On Eagles, we get into what the roles can be for the 2022 draft class this coming season, and then Locked On Titans host Tyler Rowland joins me to discuss what happened a week ago, the blockbuster trade between the Eagles and Titans, sending A.J. Brown to Philadelphia. Is this the next great win-win trade, though, in the NFL with Treylon Burks and Malik Willis going to the Titans? That's coming up next, right here on Locked On Eagles.
You are Locked On Eagles, your daily Philadelphia Eagles podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. You are Locked On Eagles, your daily Philadelphia Eagles podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We thank you so much for making Locked On Eagles your first listen each and every day. Welcome in, Eagles fans, to a Thursday edition of the podcast. It's episode 4 this week of 5. Download it into your phone wherever you get the show. We are free and available Monday through Friday, also in video form on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Twitter at Locked On Birds and at DiBiase, LOE. Getting into today what the roles can be for the rookie draft class of 2022. This coming season, what is Jordan Davis going to do in his first year on defense? Nakobe Dean, Cam Jurgens on the offensive side of the football, and then Locked On Titans host Tyler Rowland. He's going to join me in segment 2 and 3 to get into just how good A.J. Brown is, what happened between Brown and Tennessee, why did this trade happen? Could it be win-win with the 2 picks the Eagles gave Tennessee, turning into Treylon Burks and Malik Willis, 2 of the my guys for me in this draft class? That's coming up on this edition of Locked On Eagles. But first, I want to get into that first topic that I brought up. It's the roles, because I saw earlier today on our Locked On NFL Twitter page, we posted a graphic of BetOnline's Rookie of the Year odds for defensive prospects. And I looked at it, and it's kind of interesting because Nakobe Dean and Jordan Davis, the Eagles' first-round pick and third-round pick, have the same odds to win Rookie of the Year on defense in 2022 at plus 1,800. That's the same odds as well as Trent McDuffie, the cornerback from Washington that went to the Kansas City Chiefs. And then it's right in between Devin Lloyd and Kyer Elam, Andrew Booth, Derek Stingley too, like very similar odds to those players. Those are some damn good players, top of their class when it comes to their positions. And I feel like, I don't know, should we expect the Eagles defensive players to be in on that kind of award? Like, are they going to have big enough roles this year to, be a candidate to have? I mean, plus 1,800, that's not bad. I mean, those are pretty good odds. And the fact that they have the same odds, Davis and Dean, was super interesting because we know that this draft, as we said, has the potential to include many long-term core pieces, right? Jordan Davis, Cam Jurgens, Nakobe Dean. These could be long-term core pieces in the middle of your lines, and then a linebacker, do-it-all player that you haven't had in a very long time. Nakobe Dean, to me, is the best linebacker this team, I don't know, maybe has ever drafted on paper, just like based on his college resume and the potential. So we know that this class was a home run long-term for the Birds. That is exactly what they prioritized, was replacing Fletcher Cox long-term with Jordan Davis, replacing Jason Kelce long-term with Cam Jurgens, getting Nakobe Dean to be your every down linebacker. So we know that, and we know long-term, this right now on paper looks like an A-plus class. But again, what are the roles this year? It doesn't really matter all that much. This year is not going to make or break anything they did in this draft. Mostly, again, because this did have a long-term objective in mind. But those odds got me thinking, like, what are they going to do in their first year? Nakobe Dean, Jordan Davis, again, laid out here on BetOnline, plus 1,800 to win Defensive Rookie of the Year. And I think Nakobe Dean, I don't hate those odds for Nakobe Dean. I would put my money on, if I was going to put my money on one Eagle to win Rookie of the Year, it would be Nakobe Dean. Because if he is healthy, I do believe that he's going to play over Davian Taylor. He's going to play over TJ Edwards. right now, I think him and Kazir White will lead the Eagles in snaps when it comes to off-ball linebackers. And I'm not putting Hassan Riddick in this category because I consider him more of a defensive lineman that's going to rush the passer 95% of the time. And Nakobe Dean, again, is just so much better than what you've had at this position. Him and Kazir White, you think about it too, with Davian Taylor and the step, TJ Edwards took last year. That's a lot of explosive ability that this team, I don't know, again, when the last time they had this kind of depth at linebacker and this kind of potential. They had 2017 pretty deep when you had Jordan Hicks, Nigel Bradham, and Michael Kendricks. But outside of that, it's been pretty barren. I'd put my money on Nakobe Dean. He was a first-round talent, and at his position, he has the best window of opportunity in 2022 to make a significant impact on this defense. But then, it is weird that Jordan Davis has the same odds at plus 1,800. Although Jordan Davis, to me, was one of the best players in this draft class, and his upside and potential is through the roof. It's limitless. I don't think he's going to do enough this year to be considered a candidate for Rookie of the Year. Not just because of his position, which it's not flashy. He's not going to get 10, 15 sacks in a season. Most of the time, edge rushers win this award, linebackers, maybe even corners. So already he's behind the 8 ball there. But again, it's just in year one, Javon Hargrave is coming off maybe his best year of his career. Fletcher Cox just signed that 1-year deal worth $14 million. He's not suddenly going to become a reserve backup. You've got Milton Williams in year 2, and you saw the steps he took in the second half of the season. This is going to be a 4-man rotation. Jordan Davis is going to play. He's going to have a really big role, and there's going to be times that you're using 5 guys out there primarily to get behind the line of scrimmage. So there's snaps for everybody. And who knows, maybe Fletcher Cox does get traded at the deadline. Maybe you get a pick for Fletch and you really open things up for Jordan Davis. But I just can't see in his rookie year this massive role and the fact that he could be in the Rookie of the Year conversation, especially to have the same odds as Nakobe Dean, I think is a little crazy. So I think, honestly, Davis in 2022, not to say he's a backup, but it is going to be a rotation. This is defensive tackle by committee. They're going to use all 4 guys, and it's going to be fun. You love that depth, and they're going to use them at different spots. You can play Fletcher Cox and, Milton Williams on the edge, and you could have 3 guys out there at times. There's a lot you can do with this depth creativity-wise with Jonathan Gannon's scheme. But again, when it comes to the size of Jordan Davis's role this year, I don't think it's going to be nearly as big as Nakobe Dean. Long-term, it certainly is going to be. He's going to be the heart and soul of that defensive line, I think, for a long time. And the engine is going to run because of Jordan Davis on defense. They're going to be able to do things on defense because of Jordan Davis. But I don't think that's going to happen in 2022. I think that's honestly the first 2 picks. You're going to have to be really into A.J. Brown and Nakobe Dean this year if you're impatient, because Cam Jurgens, their second-round pick, the center out of Nebraska, if all things go right, he's a redshirt this year. He's Jason Kelsey's long-term replacement, but he's undersized for a guard. And I can't imagine that he plays guard this year when you have Landon Dickerson, Isaac Seumalo, Jack Driscoll. I just can't imagine, unless there's a ton of injuries like there was in 2020, that you really see Jurgens on the field. Again, unless Jason Kelsey gets hurt, and knock on wood, that doesn't happen. But, even if there was an injury or 2 at guard, I don't know if Cam Jurgens is going to go in there. I think he's honestly going to be a red shirt in 2022. Watch me be totally wrong, though. There's a bunch of injuries at guard. Cam Jurgens comes in, he thrives just like Landon Dickerson last year, who was supposed to be Jason Kelsey's replacement at center. Damn well that's why they took him last year. He thrives at guard this year, Jurgens, and then the Eagles take a center again next year to justify and say, well, we don't want to move Dickerson and Jurgens, keep it the way it is. They were elite at their positions last year. Again, I'm still a little salty about that pick. Not that I don't think it was, potentially smart long-term. I just did not want an offensive lineman in the first 2 rounds. And just again, because you can't just keep taking a guy and having a role sketched out for him and then changing it up and then just taking another offensive lineman. That's not going to happen with Jurgens like it did with Dickerson, because again, I don't think Jurgens, not Sonny Jurgensen. I feel like Eagles fans and media are going to mess that up a lot, but he's going to be a red shirt and primarily your backup center behind Jason Kelsey. Can't imagine you'll see him really at guard this year unless there's a disaster scenario. So overall, I don't know. I don't think there's like a huge role for a lot of rookies in 2022 for the Eagles. Jordan Davis is going to play. Nakobe Dean, that's the big role that could come into play here. But, Karan Johnson, their 7th-round pick from Kansas, I think he's going to battle for snaps with Patrick Johnson as Hassan Riddick's primary backup, but can't imagine there's a lot of snaps to be had there. Grant Calcaterra, we're going to figure out that name eventually. He could be your tight end too. Carson Strong could be your QB2 long-term, maybe this year if Gardner Minshew gets traded. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think there's like a huge role for a lot of rookies this year. Maybe it might be the undrafted kids. Josh Jobs from Alabama, Mario Goodrich from Clemson. They could have roles in a very weak secondary right now, especially if there's injuries, if they can make the 53-man roster. But I think if you're putting money down on a potential rookie of the year, that's Nakobe Dean. And then long-term, like in 2023, Jordan Davis and Cam Jurgens, they're going to go from role players and maybe redshirt reserves to instant heartbeats of this team, I think, long-term. But I don't know if that's going to happen in 2022. And if all goes right, that won't be the case. But it is interesting to kind of see how they're going to use these players because they're really good players. And, you don't want to keep them off the field. If Jordan Davis is wrecking and opening things up for Hassan Riddick and, Josh Sweat taking on double teams, freeing things up for Nakobe Dean and Kazir White. Can't wait to see these guys hit the field in a few months. Cannot wait. And the other guy I can't wait for is A.J. Brown, who is, I consider him a part of this draft class because he spent a 1st-round pick and a 3rd-round pick on him. That's a guy that is going to have a massive role in 2022. I sat down with Locked On Titans host Tennessee Titans host Tyler Rowland coming up next right here on Locked On Eagles to get into exactly what the Birds are getting with Brown, what happened with Tennessee and Brown, why the trade happened. Could this be a win-win move for both sides? We'll get into it coming up next right here on Locked On Eagles. And guys, today's show is sponsored by Blue Nile. At BlueNile.com, you can celebrate all of life's special moments, from creating the custom engagement ring of her dreams to gifting a classic and timeless jewelry piece, all at prices you won't find at a traditional jeweler. From diamond jewelry, cocktail rings, tennis bracelets, they have it all for this Mother's Day. Get your mom, your wife, your girlfriend, the in-law, something special this year at Blue Nile. Whether she prefers a statement piece or everyday subtle elegance, BlueNile.com has fine jewelry options for every mom. Shop high-quality classic diamond earrings, elegant tennis bracelets, or gemstone pendant necklaces. And if you're looking for jewelry but you're having trouble choosing, Blue Nile has experts on hand 24/7 on the phone or with online chat to help you find a memorable gift at every budget. This Mother's Day, give mom something she'll treasure forever with fine jewelry from BlueNile.com. And Locked On listeners get $50 off $500. This podcast exclusive. It's good through Mother's Day. Use the promo code LOCKEDON. This promo code LOCKEDON, plus every order is insured, ships free, and arrives in discreet packaging that won't give away what's inside. Shop stress-free and find your forever peace. Go to BlueNile.com. Welcome back in, Eagles fans, to another edition of Locked On Eagles. It's a Thursday edition of the show. Really pleased to be joined by my next guest. He is the host of the Locked On Titans podcast, joining me to discuss what happened a week ago, a blockbuster trade between the Eagles and the Tennessee Titans. The Titans sent A.J. Brown to the Eagles for the 18th overall selection and a 3rd-round pick, 86 overall. Tyler, thanks for joining me on the show, man. Good to talk to you for the first time. Right before the show, we brought up a bad memory for me. 2018, the last time the Titans played the Eagles at 4th and 15. Still hurts.
Yeah, well, I think we're getting even pretty quickly, because what will be a bad memory for me for all eternity is watching what's been one of my top 5 favorite players in the history of the franchise get traded. And it's not just that he was traded, it's just all of the conversation and all the comments coming from the organization saying that he would not be traded, then for it to suddenly happen out of nowhere in the middle of the first round, when that's the furthest thing from what I thought that I would be covering and talking about that night. Definitely a disappointing situation, and something like the Corey Davis catch I'll remember forever for the wrong reasons, though.
Yeah, so Tyler, that's what I wanted to get into with you is, there was so much wide receiver movement this year with Tyreek Hill and Devontae Adams, and you see Deebo Samuel requesting a trade, and A.J. Brown needed a new contract, 24 years old, heading into that contract year. Were you expecting a trade? I know there was, some rumors, but as you said, there were comments coming from the organization that seemed like it wasn't going to happen. Was this like out of left field? Did you think it could happen? And why do you think the two sides, A.J. Brown and the Titans, if you will, couldn't get something done?
Well, as I'm sure maybe some of your listeners would know, no, this did catch me completely off guard. And I was pretty strong in my opinion that the Titans would not trade A.J. Brown when all the rumors would be up. I was on record multiple times saying that he would be a Titan. And quite frankly, I think the organization had every intention to make sure that he was a Titan. They wouldn't come out and say the things that they said just as a marketing ploy or, a negotiation ploy to get more in the trade. I think that John Robinson, Titans GM, really did truly believe he was going to be able to lock AJ down and make him a Titan for a long time. So I believed in that. They're not the type of organization that comes out with effusive praise publicly for people. So the fact that they were so outward in their support of him and their desire to bring him back, I believed their word. And I guess we were all caught off guard. I was famously old takes exposed all night long on Thursday night. But that's the ups and downs of putting your opinions out there every single day. And
Sure.
I guess I was caught off guard. And I think the reality is, like you hinted at, with the wide receiver market, with the contracts exploding, AJ understandably wanting around $25 million per year. That's what I projected his salary would be when I did kind of my contract projections. I expected about $60 million guaranteed and $25 million a year. And that's about what the Eagles gave A.J. Brown. That's what I thought he deserved. So I think maybe the Titans just didn't see the value there because maybe the injuries. It also could be a referendum on the Titans' chances in 2022. John Robinson seeing the writing on the wall that it's time to remake the offense like he remade the defense with youth. So I think where the Titans saw the offense being at talent-wise and with the demands AJ was making, and it does sound like his agent kind of steered him to cut off all communication and request a trade behind doors. So I'm sure the Titans were put in a tough position, but at the end of the day, they cited the money gap. They didn't want to close the gap on the money. So we could talk about the trade request and cut off communication and all this, but at the end of the day, the reason that A.J. Brown isn't a Titan is because the Titans didn't think he was worth the money that the Eagles did.
And Tyler, I really do like what the Titans did with those two picks. I mean, taking Treylon Burks from Arkansas was one of my favorite receivers from this draft class. Kind of, comps to A.J. Brown a little bit. I don't know. And then you take Malik Willis, ironically, with that 86th overall pick in round 3. I look back, I also cover the Buffalo Bills, and I thought back to when they traded for Stefon Diggs. The Vikings used that first round pick to get Justin Jefferson. Kind of win-win trade. Like, what do you think about, even if you wanted to keep A.J. Brown, what the Titans got in return? And do you feel like this could be that next Bills-Vikings trade? Or, what's your personal opinion about what happened on Thursday?
Well, I appreciate the optimism because the Vikings situation, while the Vikings haven't been some dynamic team, at least the isolated situation of the Diggs trade with bringing back Jefferson, I mean, that's what the Titans have to be hoping for here. And yeah, if you're able to separate if you accept, which there are some Titans fans who are quicker to do that than say me, but if you just accept that A.J. Brown had to be traded and the Titans have to go from there, and you look at those moves, getting a guy like Burks, who could be an A.J. Brown comparison, he's definitely got to refine his boundary route running to even come close to what A.J. was about to be this upcoming season. But I think he can maybe get there. And, of course, they take Malik Willis. I like that pick. The value there, it's basically a no-risk pick with all potential to boom at that point. There's no real risk. They drafted 9 different guys. That's a big enough class that if your third-round pick doesn't work out, oh well. You move forward. But again, I think the overarching take here is the Titans preparing for 2023. And if you take 2022 out of the equation and you look at 2023 when they can save $18 million on the cap, by maybe parting ways with Ryan Tannehill. They can install a young, cheap rookie quarterback on a 4-year deal in Malik Willis at the starter with Treylon Burks in his second year of development. I think if you look at 2023 and you look at the pick of Burks, you look at Malik Willis, and even a Nicholas Petit-Ferrer from Ohio State as an offensive tackle with Dylan Radins coming up and Petit-Ferrer, maybe that allows the Titans to save money and cut Taylor Lewan. So the Titans should have a really healthy cap situation in 2023 with some young offensive pieces and a good defense that's really starting to gel as well. So if you could separate the A.J. Brown trade, which is hard for me, if we're honest, if you can do that, yeah, you have to like the moves that they took and made after that.
Today's episode of Locked On Eagles is brought to you by BetOnline, the official sportsbook of the Locked On Podcast Network. Make sure you bet on all your sports action this spring and summer with BetOnline. Find all the latest sports developments, league reviews, and news, including this year's NBA playoffs, Major League Baseball. This weekend, you have the Run to the Roses as the Kentucky Derby is back. Again, BetOnline's odds came out for defensive and offensive rookie of the year. You want to put some money down on Jordan Davis or Nakobe Dean at plus 1,800? Do it at betonline.net. They're your continued source for all your sporting wagering information, from live betting to playoffs, esports, and so much more. Head over to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action, because BetOnline, it's where the game starts. Yeah, absolutely. And Tyler, I want to get into, A.J. Brown, almost everybody knows that he is a star, but I do feel like maybe because he was in Tennessee, a very run-heavy offense, I don't know, maybe he doesn't get the same hype. Not that he doesn't get hype and people don't, again, know about his production as a 24-year-old that's been dominant over 3 years. But again, maybe not seeing the same light as Devontae Adams and these top-tier receivers, or at least doesn't get that, kind of hype. How good is A.J. Brown truly? Like, what are the Eagles getting in this player?
Oh, well, A.J. Brown is absolutely phenomenal. Nothing about the downside of A.J. Brown has to do with this game on the football field. If this guy's on the field, he's going to dominate. He's so physical. And I think back to the San Francisco game on Thursday Night Football last season, where A.J. Brown literally saved the Titans. He literally saved them. There's no way. There are multiple games last year where A.J. Brown literally saved the Titans, which makes this trade and the gap in salary the Titans claim just even more asinine, if we're honest. Just utterly ridiculous. But when you get a player like A.J. Brown, it totally changes the dynamic of the offense because of the physicality he plays with. I remember he went across the field one time with a San Francisco 49ers quarterback in his back pocket, and A.J. kind of gave him just a little bit of a nudge, which, hey, let him play. This is football, not basketball. Let him play. And the dude went to the ground. A.J. caught it and turned upfield. And, you just can't replicate that. The Titans have been going for in recent years, bigger, stronger, faster. We're just hard to tackle, hard to take down. And A.J. Brown's the epitome of that. So just a tremendous athlete, great wide receiver, a physical presence, which is so important in a physical game. But, if he could stay healthy, which there are some concerns there, and he can finish games, Philly has every reason to be absolutely excited.
And I think that's the huge part with the Eagles. They do have DeVonta Smith, who had an awesome rookie year, set the record for most yards for a rookie receiver. Yeah, Tyler, I think it might be the most talented duo the Eagles have ever had at this position, and both 24 years or under is incredible, but they didn't really have that physical receiver. DeVonta can go up and get the football. So could Quez Watkins, but A.J. Brown presents another style of player. And so I want to ask that too, like his specific style, because sometimes when a star is a star, you kind of just talk about how good he is, and you don't zoom in as much and talk about specific traits that they have because they're so well-rounded. But like, what kind of receiver is A.J. Brown? What do you think like his biggest strengths are outside of just being a damn good player?
Oh, sure. And absolutely. And I just want to say, I as long as I got my timelines correct, the disrespect to Terrell Owens and Freddie Mitchell, didn't they play together at the same time?
Freddie Mitchell's the two, though. That's the issue,
Hey, man, my boy. No, the Eagles were my favorite team in Madden back in the early 2000s. So soft spot in my heart for that crew. But so A.J. Brown's the type of guy, like I said, he's a physical route runner. So you want him to win on quick breaking routes over at short or intermediate range. You want him breaking over the middle of the field to try to get wide open spaces. You want him isolated, breaking outside. You want to get him the ball in short and intermediate situations so that he can do what he does best, and that's yards after catch. The guy does have speed, don't get me wrong, but he's not a burner like you want running deep routes all the time. In theory, you guys could have DeVonta Smith running those deep routes And then A.J. Brown with those short, medium crossers over the middle, get him the ball over the middle of the field and let him create and use somebody else to kind of take the top off the defense to open up that space over the middle. Those in-breaking routes, those one-on-one isolation routes, short and intermediate, that's where A.J. is going to thrive.
So, Tyler, I got to ask, too, about the Malik Willis pick, because Locked On Eagles listeners know I was a very big supporter of Malik. I thought, honestly, his upside, to me, I would have not batted an eye if the Detroit Lions took him at number 2 overall. The Titans get him at 86 in the 3rd round. And as you said earlier in the show, like, that's just, there's no risk at that point. That might be some of the best upside you've gotten in a round 3 quarterback since, I don't know, the Seattle Seahawks took Russell Wilson in 2012. Like, where is your mindset with Malik Willis? Because you do have Ryan Tannehill. This is a 3rd round pick, so it's not like he's guaranteed to get the support of a franchise quarterback and get that opportunity, but he does have that upside. So, like, what do you think the Titans' plan is, and what do you think personally of Willis's potential in Tennessee?
Well, I think the plan is obviously groom Willis, and hopefully he's ready in 2023 so the Titans can move on from Tannehill and save that money. If not, then you keep Tannehill in 2023 to finish out his contract completely with no dead money going forward. That would have to be the plan for the Titans with the Willis pick. But as for my personal feelings, I just think it was an excellent pick because, like you said, Willis has the most upside and the best physical traits of any guy in the draft. For a guy who could have gone at 2, could have gone at 8, could have gone at 9, could have gone at 6, could have gone at 20, to get him at 86, it's incredible value, very low risk, very high upside. And you look at the fit, that because he was taken 86 and because he went to the Titans with Tannehill, and you know that you can't move on from Tannehill, there is literally no pressure at all, no fake pressure, no, they can't manufacture pressure on him. If he was a first-round pick, you would say, hey, you know, they used their first-round pick on him. They need to get some value. No, it was a 3rd-round pick. There's no need to rush that. Most 3rd-round picks aren't necessarily ready to be full-time starters right away anyway. And then you add in the Ryan Tannehill situation, and now there's obviously no reason for him to need to be the starter. So no risk, just develop, just work on the game, learn the NFL. I think it's an ideal fit, ideal value, ideal situation for the Titans with that kind of upside. You couldn't get a more higher upside player at pick 86 than you got with Malik Willis. So I think it's just perfect all the way around. Again, if you could separate the moves after from the AJ trade, solid moves from the Titans. But again, I just want to say I completely disagree with the way they approached the AJ Brown thing. And I think Philadelphia got a fleece job, quite frankly.
Yeah, I think both things can be true. I think you would wish that A.J. Brown at 24 years old was still a Titan, but that doesn't mean you can't still do good by what you got with the haul you got in return. It's kind of like the Eagles. I wish Carson Wentz was still the franchise quarterback, and I wish none of that happened, but you got multiple picks back that has now turned into DeVonta Smith that helped you get A.J. Brown, collect picks down the road potentially for your next quarterback if Jalen Hurts isn't the guy. So totally agree with your mindset there, and it'll be interesting, man. This is going to be one of those trades, kind of like Bills-Vikings and, you know, those blockbuster deals that 3 years down the road you look back at and it's like, did the Titans just get their franchise quarterback and their wide receiver one out of it? Did A.J. Brown help Jalen Hurts become the guy? It's one of those blockbuster deals, Tyler, and I can't wait to find out what happens.
Absolutely. It's exciting to see where these branches end up after we see these things cross over in time. Yeah, it'll be awesome. Along with the Tyreek Hill and the Devontae Adams trade, like who wins
the
those
entire
deals?
offseason, man. I mean, it's been incredible.
This crazy wide receiver offseason, man. We will see how it turns out.
Tyler Rowland joining me, the host of the Locked On Titans podcast. You can follow him on Twitter at TicTacTitans. You can subscribe to Locked On Titans wherever you get your podcasts as well as on YouTube. Tyler, thanks so much for talking with me today, man, about this trade, and we'll talk down the road.
Yeah, enjoy watching A.J. Brown ball out, man. What a treat.
Appreciate it.